The shattering of glass echoed through the kitchen, followed by Harry's exasperated sigh. I closed my eyes, counting to 10 before turning to face the mess. It was the third plate this week. "Maggie, where's the dustpan?" Harry called out, not bothering to look for it himself. "Right where it always is, dear." "Under the sink," I replied, my voice strained with forced patience. As I watched him fumble with the broom, I couldn't help but wonder when my husband had become so helpless. "You know, if you'd just let me organize the cabinets my way, this wouldn't happen," he grumbled, sweeping the shards into a pile. I bit my tongue, resisting the urge to remind him that his way involved shoving everything into random drawers. Instead, I focused on finishing the dishes, scrubbing perhaps a bit harder than necessary. "Oh, by the way," Harry said, dumping the broken plate into the trash, "Mom called earlier. She wants us over for dinner tomorrow night." My hands froze mid-scrub. "Tomorrow? But we have plans, remember? The Johnsons invited us for their barbecue." Harry shrugged, already heading for the living room. "We can do that another time. You know how Mom gets when we cancel." I did know, all too well. Ella, my mother-in-law, had a knack for guilt-tripping that would make a Catholic nun envious. But this was the third time this month we'd changed our plans to accommodate her whims. "Harry," I called out, following him, "don't you think it's time we set some boundaries with your mother?" He looked at me as if I'd suggested we move to Mars. "Boundaries? With Mom? Come on, Maggie, don't be ridiculous. She's just lonely since Dad passed. It's been 5 years, Harry, and she has a busier social life than we do." Harry's face clouded over. "Look, I don't want to argue about this. We're going to Mom's tomorrow, end of discussion." I felt something snap inside me. "End of discussion? When did you become the dictator of this household? When did you become so selfish?" he shot back. "She's my mother, Maggie. She needs us." "And what about what I need?" I didn't realize I was shouting until I saw Harry flinch. "What about our marriage? When was the last time we did something just the two of us?" Harry's phone buzzed, and he glanced at it, his expression softening. "I've got to take this. It's work." As he walked away, already engrossed in his call, I sank onto the couch, feeling deflated. This wasn't the man I'd married 15 years ago. That Harry had been ambitious, attentive, and most importantly, my partner. This Harry, I wasn't sure who he was anymore. My own phone chimed with a text. It was from Lily, my sister-in-law. "SOS. Need to talk. Can you meet me at Joe's Diner in 20? I hesitated, glancing towards the study where I could hear Harry's muffled voice. Making a split-second decision, I grabbed my keys. "I'm going out," I called to Harry. No response, of course. The drive to Joe's was a blur of streetlights and conflicting emotions. As I pulled into the parking lot, I spotted Lily already at our usual booth, her face pale and drawn. "Lily, what's wrong?" I slid in across from her, noting the untouched cup of coffee in front of her. She looked up, her eyes red-rimmed. "It's Sam. And Ella. I overheard them talking. Maggie, I think they're plotting something against me." My blood ran cold. "What do you mean?" Lily opened her mouth to respond, but before she could, the diner's door chimed. We both looked up to see Harry walk in, his face a mask of fury as he spotted us. "Maggie? What the hell is going on here?" As Harry stormed towards our table, I realized that the quiet discontent in my marriage was about to erupt into something I wasn't sure I was prepared to face. Harry's thunderous expression sent a chill down my spine as he approached our booth. Lily shrank back, her eyes darting between us. "What's going on here?" Harry demanded, his voice low and dangerous. I straightened my spine, meeting his gaze. "I'm having coffee with my sister-in-law. Is that a crime now?" "Don't play games, Maggie. You snuck out without telling me." "I told you I was leaving. It's not my fault you were too busy with your work call to notice." Harry's jaw clenched. "We'll discuss this at home. Come on, let's go." I glanced at Lily, who looked on the verge of tears. "No, Harry. Lily needs me right now." "Oh, for God's sake," he muttered. "What's wrong now, Lily? Another imaginary slight from Mom." Lily flinched as if she'd been slapped. I felt my anger rising. "That's enough. Harry, go home. I'll be there when I'm done here." For a moment I thought he might argue further, but then his phone buzzed again, and he glanced at it, his expression changing. "Fine, don't be late. We have dinner at Mom's tomorrow, remember?" As Harry stormed out, I turned back to Lily. "I'm so sorry about that. Now, what were you saying about Ella and Sam?" Lily's hands trembled as she clutched her coffee cup. "I overheard them talking in the study last night. They were discussing ways to deal with me. Ella said I was becoming a problem, that I was turning Sam against her. I felt a surge of protective anger. What did Sam say? He agreed with her. Lily's voice broke. He said maybe it was time to consider other options, whatever that means. My mind raced. Have you confronted Sam about this? Lily shook her head. I'm scared, Maggie. You know what Ella's capable of. Remember what happened to Janet? I winced at the memory. Janet had been Sam's previous girlfriend before Lily. She'd stood up to Ella once too often and suddenly found herself the subject of vicious rumors that ruined her reputation in town. She'd moved away soon after. We need to do something, I said, reaching across the table to squeeze Lily's hand. This can't go on. Just then, the diner's door chimed again. We both looked up to see Ella herself sweep in, her perfectly coiffed hair and designer outfit a stark contrast to our disheveled appearances. Well, well, Ella said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. What a cozy little meeting. Planning another way to disappoint my boys, are we? I felt Lily stiffen beside me. Hello, Ella, I said, keeping my voice neutral. What brings you here? Ella's eyes narrowed. I was on my way home from Bridge Club when I saw your car, Maggie. Imagine my surprise when I realized you were here instead of at home with my Harry. You know how he hates to eat alone. Harry's a grown man, Ella. I'm sure he can manage dinner on his own for one night. Ella's smile turned predatory. Oh, I'm not worried about Harry. I'm more concerned about you, dear. It's not good for a wife to neglect her duties so frequently. I felt a retort building in my throat, but Lily spoke up first. We were just leaving, Ella. No need to worry about us. Ella's gaze swiveled to Lily, and I saw a flash of something cold in her eyes. Of course, dear. I'm sure Sam is wondering where you've run off to as well. You know how he worries. As Ella sauntered away to order her coffee, Lily and I exchanged glances. The weight of unspoken fears hung between us. We can't let her win, I whispered fiercely. Whatever she's planning, we need to be ready. Lily nodded, a spark of determination finally lighting her eyes. You're right. It's time we stopped being victims and started fighting back. As we left the diner, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were stepping onto a battlefield. But for the first time in years, I felt ready for the fight. The next morning I woke to an empty bed and the sound of hushed voices from downstairs. Creeping down the stairs, I recognized Harry's low murmur and Ella's sharp tones. My stomach clenched as I strained to hear their conversation. She's becoming a problem, Harry, Ella hissed. You need to get her under control. Mom, please. Maggie's just going through a phase. She'll come around. I bit back a bitter laugh. A phase? Is that what he thought this was? She's poisoning Lily against us, Ella continued. If we're not careful, they'll ruin everything we've worked for. My blood ran cold. What were they talking about? What had they worked for? Before I could hear Harry's response, the front door opened, and Sam's voice joined the mix. I retreated upstairs, my mind racing. Later that afternoon, I met Lily at the park, away from prying eyes and ears. Her face was pale, her eyes red-rimmed. Maggie, I can't take it anymore, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Last night, Sam, I felt a surge of protective anger. Did he hurt you? Lily shook her head. Not physically, but he told me I was imagining things, that I was being paranoid. He said if I didn't stop causing trouble, he'd have to take action. That sounds like a threat, I said, my jaw clenching. It gets worse, Lily continued. I found these in his desk drawer. She handed me a stack of papers. As I flipped through them, my heart sank. Bank statements, property deeds, all in Sam's name alone. He's been hiding assets, I muttered. Lily nodded, tears welling in her eyes. I think he's planning to leave me, Maggie, and if he does, I'll have nothing. I wrapped an arm around her shoulders. We won't let that happen. We'll fight back together. Just then, my phone buzzed with a text from Harry. Where are you? Mom's waiting for us. I'd completely forgotten about the dinner at Ella's. I have to go, I told Lily, but this isn't over. We'll figure something out. When I arrived at Ella's house, the tension was palpable. Harry shot me a disapproving look as I slipped into my seat at the dining table. Nice of you to join us, dear, Ella said, her smile not reaching her eyes. We were just discussing the future of the family business. I blinked in surprise. I didn't know there was a family business. Sam chuckled. Oh, Maggie, always the last to know, aren't you? I felt a flash of anger, Maybe if someone bothered to tell me things, I wouldn't be. Now, Ella interjected smoothly. Let's not bicker. We have important matters to discuss. Harry, Sam, why don't you tell Maggie about our plans? As Harry and Sam launched into an explanation about some property development scheme, my mind whirled. This was what they'd been working on? And they'd kept me in the dark all this time? Of course, Ella continued, we'll need everyone's cooperation, including Lily's. I stiffened. What do you mean? Ella's smile turned predatory. Well, we'll need to use some of the properties in her name. For tax purposes, you understand. Suddenly, everything clicked into place. The hidden assets, the whispered conversations, the threats against Lily. They were planning to use her, then discard her. No, I said, my voice ringing out in the sudden silence. Absolutely not. Harry's face darkened. Maggie, you don't understand. Oh, I understand perfectly, I snapped. You're all planning to rob Lily blind. Well, it's not going to happen, not while I'm around. As I stood to leave, Ella's voice cut through the air like a whip. Sit down, Maggie. You have no idea what you're dealing with. I met her gaze, feeling a surge of defiance. No, Ella, you have no idea what you're dealing with. This ends now. As I stormed out of the house, I could feel the weight of their stares on my back. I knew I'd just declared war, but for the first time in years, I felt truly alive. The battle was just beginning, and I was ready to fight. The days following my confrontation at Ella's house were a blur of tense silences and heated arguments. Harry barely spoke to me, spending most of his time on hushed phone calls or locked away in his study. I knew I was walking a dangerous line, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something bigger was at stake. One evening, as I was sorting through old papers in our bedroom, I stumbled upon a folder I'd never seen before. My hands trembled as I opened it, revealing a stack of legal documents. As I scanned the pages, my blood ran cold. Harry! I shouted, storming downstairs with the folder clutched to my chest. What the hell is this? He looked up from his laptop, his face paling as he saw what I was holding. Maggie, I can explain. Explain? I threw the papers onto the coffee table. Explain how you've been secretly transferring our assets into accounts I can't access. Explain how you've been funneling money into this so-called family business without my knowledge or consent. Harry stood, his hands raised in a placating gesture. It's not what you think. We're just protecting our interests. Our interests? I laughed bitterly. Or your mother's. Just then, my phone buzzed with a text from Lily. Help. Sam's gone crazy. He's threatening to take everything. My heart raced. I have to go, I told Harry, already grabbing my keys. Where are you going? He demanded, following me to the door. I whirled to face him. To help your brother's wife, since apparently none of you care about her well-being. I arrived at Lily's house to find her sitting on the front steps, her face buried in her hands. When she looked up, I saw a bruise forming on her cheek. Oh, Lily, I breathed, pulling her into a hug. What happened? Through her tears, she told me how Sam had come home in a rage, accusing her of conspiring against the family. When she'd confronted him about the hidden assets, he'd lost control. He said if I didn't sign over everything to him, he'd make sure I ended up with nothing, she sobbed. Maggie, I'm scared. I don't know what to do. I held her tightly, my mind racing. We need to get you out of here. Pack a bag. You're coming with me. As Lily gathered her things, I made a series of phone calls. First to a lawyer friend who owed me a favor, then to a women's shelter I'd volunteered at years ago. Finally, to my sister across state lines. By the time Sam's car pulled into the driveway, we were ready to leave. He stumbled out, his face contorted with anger when he saw us. Where do you think you're going? He slurred, blocking our path to my car. I stepped in front of Lily, my voice steady despite my pounding heart. Move, Sam. You don't want to do anything you'll regret. He lunged forward, but I was ready. The self-defense classes I'd taken after college finally paid off as I sidestepped his clumsy attack, using his momentum to send him sprawling. Let's go, I told Lily, ushering her into the car. As we drove away, I could see Sam shouting and gesticulating in the rearview mirror. My phone buzzed incessantly. Harry, no doubt, having been alerted by his brother. What now? Lily asked, her voice small and scared. I took a deep breath, my hands tightening on the steering wheel. Now we fight back. No more playing nice, no more being the obedient wives they expect us to be. It's time to show Ella and her boys exactly what we're capable of. As we crossed the city limits, I felt a strange mix of fear and exhilaration. I knew that by driving away, I was leaving behind the life I'd known for the past 15 years. But looking at Lily's determined face beside me, I also knew I was driving towards something far more important: freedom, justice, and the chance to reclaim our lives. The road ahead was uncertain, but one thing was clear: the war had begun, and we were ready for battle. The safe house my sister had arranged for us was small but secure. As days turned into weeks, Lily and I settled into a routine, strategizing our next moves and supporting each other through the emotional turmoil. We'd both filed for divorce, and the legal battle was just beginning. One afternoon, as we pored over financial documents, my phone rang. It was Harry. "Maggie, please," he pleaded, his voice cracking. "Come home, we can work this out." I felt a pang in my chest, but steeled myself. "There's nothing to work out, Harry. You made your choice." "Mom's sick," he blurted out. She needs us, all of us." I froze, my mind racing. Was this another manipulation, or was Ella truly ill? Before I could respond, I heard Ella's voice in the background. "Tell her I need one of my daughters-in-law to move in and take care of me. It's the least they can do after tearing this family apart." My blood boiled. Even now, Ella was trying to control us. "Put her on the phone," I demanded. "Maggie, dear," Ella's saccharine voice oozed through the speaker. "I hope you've come to your senses. This little rebellion of yours has gone on long enough." "Rebellion?" I scoffed. "Is that what you call standing up for ourselves?" "Don't be dramatic," Ella chided. "Now I expect either you or Lily to be here by tomorrow. I need round-the-clock care, and who better than family?" I glanced at Lily, who was shaking her head vehemently. "That's not going to happen, Ella," I said firmly. "Oh." Her tone turned icy. "Well, perhaps you should consider the consequences of your refusal. I'd hate for certain information to come to light." My heart raced. "What are you talking about?" "Let's just say I know things about both you and Lily that you'd rather keep private. Your choice, dear." The line went dead, leaving me stunned. "What is it?" Lily asked, her face pale. "What did she say?" I relayed the conversation, watching Lily's expression shift from fear to anger. "She's bluffing," Lily insisted. "She can't know anything that bad." But doubt gnawed at me. What if Ella did have something on us? Could we risk calling her bluff? Just then, my phone buzzed with a text. It was from an unknown number containing a video file. With trembling fingers, I pressed play. The grainy footage showed me, years ago, in a heated argument with my former boss. I watched horror as my past self shoved him, causing him to stumble back against his desk. "Oh, God," I whispered. I'd forgotten about that. Lily peered at the screen. "What is it?" "It was right before I quit my last job," I explained. He'd been harassing me for months. That day, he tried to... I just snapped. I never reported it because I was afraid no one would believe me. Another text came through. "Imagine if this got out. Assault charges could complicate your divorce, couldn't they?" Lily's phone chimed next. She gasped as she read the message. "They know about the money I've been sending my sister," she said, her voice shaking. "The money from the joint account with Sam. They're threatening to accuse me of embezzlement." We sat in stunned silence, the weight of Ella's threats hanging over us. "What do we do now?" Lily asked, her voice small. I closed my eyes, feeling the walls closing in. We'd come so far, fought so hard. Could we really let Ella win now? But as I looked at Lily, saw the fear and determination in her eyes, I knew we couldn't back down. We'd weathered too much to give up now. "We fight," I said, my voice stronger than I felt. "We call her bluff, and we fight back harder than ever. No more running, no more hiding. It's time to take the battle to them." Lily nodded, a spark of hope igniting in her eyes. "Together?" I reached out and squeezed her hand. "Together. They have no idea what we're capable of." As we began to formulate our plan, I felt a surge of resolve. Ella thought she had the upper hand, but she'd underestimated us for the last time. The real war was just beginning, and we were ready to win. The morning after Ella's threats, I woke to find Lily pacing our small living room, her face ashen. "Maggie," she whispered, her voice trembling, "I need to tell you something I've been hiding." My heart raced as I sat up, bracing myself for whatever bombshell she was about to drop. "What is it, Lily?" She collapsed onto the couch, tears streaming down her face. "Sam's been having an affair," she choked out, "for years. And Ella's been covering for him." I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. How long have you known? I suspected for a while, but I found proof last month, Lily confessed. Emails, hotel receipts. And then I overheard Ella talking to Sam about keeping it quiet. She said it was for the good of the family. Rage boiled inside me. That manipulative witch, I seethed. And Sam? How could he do this to you? Lily's sobs intensified. There's more, she whispered. The woman he's been seeing, she's pregnant. The room spun around me as the full weight of Lily's revelation sank in. This wasn't just about infidelity anymore. This was about a child, an innocent life caught in the crossfire of our family's dysfunction. We need to confront them, I said, my voice hard with determination. All of them. No more hiding, no more secrets. Lily nodded, wiping her eyes. But how? They'll just deny everything. A plan began to form in my mind. We gather evidence, everything we can find, and then we hit them where it hurts, their precious family business. We spent the next few days in a frenzy of activity. I called in favors from old colleagues, dug through financial records, and pieced together a damning picture of fraud and deceit that went far beyond Sam's affair. As we prepared to confront our husbands and Ella, my phone buzzed with a text from Harry. We need to talk. Meet me at the park in an hour. Against my better judgment, I agreed. When I arrived, Harry was pacing nervously by the fountain. Maggie, he said, his voice strained. I know things have been bad between us, but I need you to come home. Mom's condition is getting worse, and the business... We're in trouble. Big trouble. I steeled myself against the flicker of sympathy I felt. What kind of trouble, Harry? He ran a hand through his hair. Financial irregularities. The auditors are asking questions. If we don't sort this out, we could lose everything. For a moment, I was tempted to tell him everything I knew, to offer help. But then I remembered Lily's tears, Ella's threats, the years of manipulation. I'm sorry, Harry, I said, my voice steady, but I can't help you, not anymore. His face darkened. You don't understand. If this gets out, it won't just be us who suffer. Think about the employees, their families. Don't you dare try to guilt me, I snapped. You made your choices. Now you have to live with the consequences. As I turned to leave, Harry grabbed my arm. Maggie, please. I love you. I wrenched my arm free, tears stinging my eyes. If you loved me, you wouldn't have let your mother control our lives. You wouldn't have lied to me for years. What are you talking about? Harry's face paled. I know everything, Harry. About the business, about Sam's affair. And I know you've been hiding things from me, too. Harry's expression shifted from confusion to fear. Maggie, whatever you think you know. Save it, I cut him off. Lily and I are done being your family's doormats. We're taking control of our lives, and if that means bringing down this house of cards you've built, so be it. As I walked away, leaving Harry stunned and silent, my phone buzzed again. It was Lily. Maggie, she gasped, her voice thick with tears. I just got a call from the hospital. It's Ella. She's had a heart attack. I froze, the weight of everything crashing down on me. In that moment, I realized we'd reached the point of no return. Whatever happened next would change our lives forever. I'm on my way, I told Lily, my voice steadier than I felt. It's time to end this, once and for all. The hospital corridor seemed endless as Lily and I rushed towards Ella's room. My mind raced with conflicting emotions. Concern for a woman I'd once considered family, anger at her manipulations, and fear of what awaited us. As we rounded the corner, we saw Harry and Sam huddled outside Ella's room, their faces drawn with worry. They looked up as we approached, surprise and relief flickering across their features. Maggie, Lily, Harry said, his voice hoarse. You came. Before I could respond, a nurse emerged from Ella's room. She's asking for you all, she said softly. We filed into the room, the tension palpable. Ella lay in the hospital bed, looking smaller and more fragile than I'd ever seen her. But as her eyes met mine, I saw a flash of the old steel. Well, she rasped, I suppose it took me nearly dying to bring this family back together. I felt Lily stiffen beside me. We're here out of concern, Ella, I said carefully. But don't think for a moment that this changes anything. Ella's lips curved into a weak smile. Always the fighter, aren't you, Maggie? But there are things you don't know. Things that... Suddenly, Lily stepped forward, her face flushed. No more secrets, she said, her voice trembling. No more lies. I know about Sam's affair, Ella. I know you've been covering for him. The The room fell silent. Sam's face drained of color while Harry looked between us in confusion. "What are you talking about?" Harry demanded. I took a deep breath, steeling myself. "It's not just Sam, Harry. We know about the financial irregularities in the business. We know about the fraud." Harry's eyes widened in shock. "How did you?" "That's enough." Ella's voice cracked like a whip, startling us all. She struggled to sit up, her eyes blazing. "You ungrateful girls have no idea what I've sacrificed for this family." "Sacrificed?" I scoffed. "You've manipulated and lied to us for years." As the accusations flew, the room descended into chaos. Sam and Harry tried to defend themselves, while Ella alternated between pleas for understanding and threats. In the midst of the turmoil, Lily's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, then gasped. "Maggie," she whispered, showing me the screen. It was an email from our lawyer. Attached were documents proving not only Sam's infidelity, but also Harry's. My world tilted on its axis as I scanned the evidence. Hotel receipts, intimate messages, even photos. I felt as if I'd been plunged into icy water. All this time, while I'd been fighting to save my marriage, Harry had been betraying me too. "How could you?" I whispered, my voice breaking as I turned to Harry. His face crumpled. "Maggie, I can explain, but I was beyond explanations. Years of pent-up anger, hurt, and betrayal surged through me." "No," I said, my voice gaining strength. "No more explanations. No more chances. Lily and I are done." Ella struggled to sit up, her face contorted with rage. "You can't just walk away. Think of the scandal, the shame." "The only shame here is what you've done to this family," Lily said, her voice steady despite the tears in her eyes. I turned to Lily, seeing my own pain and determination reflected in her face. "We're leaving," I said, "for good this time." As we walked towards the door, Sam called out, "You'll never survive without us. You have nothing." I paused, my hand on the doorknob. "We have each other," I said, not bothering to look back. "And that's more than enough." With that, Lily and I stepped out of the room, leaving behind the shattered remains of our old lives. As the door closed on the sounds of Ella's angry shouts and our husband's pleas, I felt a strange mix of grief and liberation. "What now?" Lily asked, her voice small but determined. I squeezed her hand, drawing strength from our shared resolve. "Now, we start over, on our own terms." As we walked out of the hospital into the bright sunlight, I knew the hardest part of our journey was still ahead, but for the first time in years, I felt truly free. Whatever challenges awaited us, Lily and I would face them together, stronger than ever. 2 weeks after our hospital confrontation, Lily and I stood outside Ella's sprawling mansion, our hearts pounding. We'd received a summons, a final attempt, no doubt, to manipulate us back into the fold. But this time we were ready. "Are you sure about this?" Lily whispered, her hand trembling in mine. I squeezed her fingers reassuringly. "Absolutely. It's time to end this once and for all." As we entered, the tension in the air was palpable. Harry, Sam, and Ella sat in the living room, their faces a mix of anger, fear, and desperation. Ella, looking frail but determined, spoke first. "Girls, I'm glad you've come to your senses. Now let's discuss how we can move past this unpleasantness." I felt a surge of anger at her dismissive tone. "There's nothing to discuss, Ella. We're here to tell you that we're filing for divorce." The room erupted into chaos. Sam leapt to his feet, his face red with rage. "You can't do this. Think of the scandal, the shame." Harry, pale and shaken, pleaded. "Maggie, please. We can work this out. I'll do anything." But it was Ella's reaction that surprised me most. She laughed, a bitter, hollow sound that sent chills down my spine. "You foolish girls," she spat. "You think you can just walk away? I built this family, this empire. I won't let you destroy it." Lily stepped forward, her voice steady despite her trembling hands. "You're the one who destroyed it, Ella. With your lies, your manipulations. We're just finally breaking free." As accusations flew and tempers flared, I felt a strange calm settle over me. I realized that this moment, this confrontation, was what we'd been building towards for years. "Enough," I said, my voice cutting through the chaos. "We're not here to argue. We're here to tell you that it's over. We have evidence of your infidelities, your financial fraud. If you try to fight us on this, we'll take it all public." The color drained from their faces as the full impact of our words sank in. Harry slumped in his chair, defeated. Sam paced like a caged animal. But Ella's eyes blazed with a fury I'd never seen before. "You ungrateful little—" she began, rising from her chair. But before she could finish, Lily interrupted, her voice stronger than I'd ever heard it. No, Ella, we're not ungrateful. We're survivors. And we're done letting you control our lives. In that moment, looking at Lily's determined face, I felt a surge of pride and love for my sister-in-law. We'd been through hell together, and we'd come out stronger. This is your last chance, I said, addressing all three of them. Accept the divorce terms we've proposed, or we'll see you in court. And trust me, you don't want that. The silence that followed was deafening. Finally, Harry spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. What do you want from us? I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what came next. We want our freedom, a fair division of assets, and your word that you'll never try to contact us again. Sam opened his mouth to argue, but Ella held up a hand, silencing him. For a moment, I saw a flicker of the formidable woman she once was, the woman who had held this family in her iron grip for so long. You've won, she said, her voice laced with bitterness. Take what you want and go. As Lily and I turned to leave, I felt a weight lifting from my shoulders. Years of resentment, fear, and anger began to melt away, replaced by a sense of possibility. Outside, the sun was setting, painting the sky in brilliant shades of orange and pink. Lily turned to me, tears glistening in her eyes. We did it, she whispered. We're free. I pulled her into a tight hug, feeling my own eyes well up. Yes, we are, and we did it together. As we walked away from the house that had been our prison for so long, I felt a sense of excitement I hadn't experienced in years. The road ahead was uncertain, but for the first time it was ours to choose. So, Lily said, a small smile playing on her lips. What now? I laughed, feeling lighter than I had in years. Now we live, Lily. On our own terms, by our own rules, the world is waiting for us. Hand in hand, we walked towards our new future, leaving behind the shadows of our past. We had faced our demons, confronted our fears, and emerged victorious. Whatever challenges lay ahead, I knew we could face them. Together, as sisters, as survivors, as women who had reclaimed their power and their lives. The end was just the beginning, and I couldn't wait to see what came next.